Sometimes, a trip meant to celebrate something happy can turn into something you'd never expect. This story comes from a guy named Tong. He told it to a radio show in Thailand that shares real supernatural experiences. And honestly, it stuck with me, haunted me for days. It happened just a few nights before New Year's, a time when most people are partying, drinking, laughing with friends. Tong, his girlfriend Du, and a small group of close friends decided to spend a couple of nights at a resort. Just a casual trip to hang out, drink, grill some meat, and say goodbye to the year. But at the very last moment, their original resort canceled. They had to scramble to find a new place to stay. That sudden change, it led them to a remote, beautiful-looking resort deep in the forest. A place that seemed peaceful and perfect in the photos. But what they found there wasn't peace. It was something else entirely. Something watching them. Something waiting. This is a story about that resort. What they saw, what they heard, and what followed them after. So here's a bit of background before the horror kicks in. Tong had just started a relationship with a girl named Du. They'd met online, and things got serious pretty quickly. Du lived in another province. But as luck would have it, Tong's mother worked at a place that happened to be hiring for the exact position Du studied for. Long story short, Du got the job, and they were planning to move in together. To mark the beginning of this new chapter, Du's friends suggested a little getaway. Nothing fancy, just a few days at a cozy resort surrounded by nature, where they could relax, celebrate, and spend time together. They found a homestay with amazing views of the mountains. Du sent Tong photos of green fields, small garden houses, even a quiet waterfall in the distance. Everything looked perfect, so they booked it. But just one day before the trip, the homestay called. Something about a maintenance issue with the rooms. One of the houses they booked wasn't usable. They offered to switch them to another zone, but the rooms would no longer be next to each other. That didn't sit well with Tong. They wanted to stay close, together, so Du started looking for a new place. Fast. A few hours later, she sent Tong photos of a different resort. It was stunning, at least in pictures. Traditional Lana-style design, carved wooden bedposts, red curtains, soft lighting, rustic furniture built into the walls. Tong was immediately drawn to it. He didn't even ask where it was located. He just said, "This one, book it." Du laughed and replied, "I knew you'd like it. I already checked. They have 3 rooms available, all next to each other." Perfect. There was only one condition. No deposit option. They had to pay in full, up front, and they did. 8,700 baht. Gone in a single transfer. No red flags. No second thoughts. But looking back, maybe that was the first mistake. So the day finally came. Tong packed up, picked up Du, and started driving toward the new resort. The mood was light. Everyone was excited, talking, laughing, playing music. The GPS was guiding them deeper into the forest, and the sun had started to dip behind the hills. Then it happened. "Your destination is on the left." The GPS spoke with its usual calm tone. But when Tong looked to the left, there was no resort, no driveway, just a steep drop into complete darkness. A cliff, and the edge was dangerously close to where they'd stopped the car. Everyone went quiet. They looked around. No lights, no signs, just trees, and the faint hum of the forest turning cold. Du checked the location again. It was correct, but where was the resort? They tried calling. No answer. Minutes passed, then hours. Finally, someone picked up. An older woman answered. Her voice crackled through the phone, calm and slow. "Oh, I thought you weren't coming anymore," she said. "Everyone always gets lost on the way here. I'll have my husband give you directions." She passed the phone to her husband, who gave them turn-by-turn instructions. The actual entrance, it turned out, was about 2 kilometers away from the GPS marker. Hidden, no signs, no lights. When they finally turned in, they found an old wooden sign leaning to one side, barely legible under the dim headlights. Hand-painted in faded red letters, "Rooms for rent." It wasn't nailed up like a proper sign, just a piece of broken wood, propped up near the bushes. They pulled in. Gravel crunched under the tires. Thick trees surrounded the narrow driveway on both sides, forming shadows that swallowed the car whole. At the parking area, Tong stopped the engine. Silence. There were no other cars, no staff, no welcoming lights. Just one old motorbike parked under a tree, half covered in leaves. And the kind of quiet that didn't feel peaceful. It felt like the forest was holding its breath. Tong and the group finally checked in. The owner's wife handed them the keys without much of a smile and vanished before they could ask anything else. They were assigned 3 rooms, side by side. Tong took the middle one. As he stepped inside, it was exactly like the photos Du had sent. Lana style. Wooden carvings on the furniture. Red curtains tied neatly at the bedposts. It should have been beautiful, peaceful, but the moment Tong closed the door behind him, he felt it. The air inside was cold, not refreshing, not from an air conditioner, but unnaturally cold. It hit him like a quiet wave, heavy and still. Then he turned and noticed something on the back of the door, a piece of red cloth, stuck on the inside of the room. It was a yantra, a sacred charm. The words written on it, Foot of King Yama. King Yama, the lord of the underworld. Tong stood frozen, staring at it. Why was this inside the room? Shouldn't a protective charm be placed outside, facing whatever it was meant to block? Moments later, Toei knocked on his door. He held up a similar red charm in his hand. Dude, this was on my door too. I pulled it off. What the hell is this? Tong didn't laugh. He just nodded and opened his door wider. Mine's still there. Look. The two stared at each other in silence. No one said what they were thinking, but both of them felt it now. This wasn't just some quirky decoration. It was a warning. Later that evening, they wandered over to the dining area. It was a quiet, open space surrounded by trees, with a large wooden post standing in the middle. But instead of a Buddha statue, they saw something else. On the center altar was a black statue, a woman, long hair flowing down her back, cradling a child in one arm, sitting on a human skull. The paint had faded. Parts of the figure were cracked, chipped, worn by time and rain. But the eerie presence it gave off was undeniable. On either side were statues of traditional Thai dancers, arms raised mid-motion, their ceramic faces cracked, frozen in expression, and draped over everything. Red threads, garlands, and dusty old offerings. Toei, ever the joker, reached out and ran a finger across the statue's cheek. She's prettier than my girlfriend, he laughed. A little polish and she'd be perfect. Tong didn't laugh. He felt the cold again, colder than before. And deep down, he knew Toei shouldn't have touched it. That night, they tried to pretend everything was normal. The group gathered in the open-air dining area. They grilled meat, passed around drinks, and forced laughter into the quiet air. But beneath every smile, there was tension. That kind of heaviness you don't talk about, but everyone feels. Toei, already tipsy, kept cracking jokes. Du and Phi snapped a few selfies. For a brief moment, things almost felt okay. But then, the sound came. A soft melody, Thai classical music. The sound of ranat, pai nai, and gentle drums floating through the night air. It wasn't coming from a speaker. It wasn't anyone's phone. It was just there. Tong looked around, confused. The music was getting louder. He turned to Du, who was lying on the bed. Hey, turn it down, he mumbled, still half-dazed. But Du didn't move. She was fast asleep. Tong rubbed his eyes. His head was spinning slightly from the alcohol. And then he looked up, and what he saw froze the blood in his veins. There was a woman, dancing, on top of Du's body. She wore traditional Thai clothing, a red sabai wrapped across her chest, a floral skirt, golden sash, and a giant red flower tucked behind her ear. She was in full makeup, like a performer. Her arms moved with delicate grace, fingers curled in perfect rhythm, and her body swayed, as if to the music only she could hear. Tong couldn't move. The woman slowly turned her head and smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It wasn't human. It was too wide, too calm, too knowing. She never stopped dancing. Tong began to shake. His voice cracked as he whispered a prayer under his breath. He shut his eyes tight, trying to block it all out. Then he heard it, a voice, soft, close, right next to his ear. You're giving her to me? I'll take her. His heart nearly stopped. He opened his eyes. She was still there, still dancing, still smiling. In a panic, He said the first thing that came to mind. No, not her. Not Do. Take Toei. He's the one who touched your statue. He mocked you. Take him. Suddenly, the music stopped. The room fell dead silent. The air shifted, and Tong knew someone, or something, had accepted the deal. Knock, knock, knock. A frantic pounding on the door jolted Tong awake. He stumbled out of bed and pulled it open. It was Fi. Her face was pale. Her voice trembled. Tong, help. It's Toei. He jumped off the balcony. Those words hit like a slap. Tong didn't even put on his shoes. He ran down the stairs, around the side of the building, and there was Toei, lying on the cold ground, body twisted, one leg bent at a strange angle. His face, frozen in a look of sheer, pure terror. His mouth moved, but no words came out. Only sounds, broken gasps, like he was trying to scream, but had forgotten how. Tong and Fi rushed to him. Du followed, eyes wide with fear. No one asked questions. No one tried to explain. They just knew. They couldn't stay another night. Not here. Not after what had happened. They packed what they could in silence, threw bags into the car, helped Toei into the back seat, wincing with every movement. The forest felt colder now, darker, like it was watching. Tong started the engine. The headlights barely cut through the mist that had crept in. He pulled out of the gravel lot. Driving away felt like trying to escape something that didn't want them to leave. And just as they passed the broken rooms for rent sign, thud, something heavy, very heavy, landed on the roof of the car. Everyone jumped. Tong slammed on the brakes. He got out, flashlight in hand, slowly stepped around the vehicle. Heart racing. He aimed the light up toward the roof. Nothing. No branch. No rock. No animal. Just silence. Dead silence. Not even crickets. Not even wind. Like the whole forest was holding its breath. Tong looked back toward the trees. Something told him they weren't alone. Not anymore. And whatever had followed them wasn't finished. They made it to the hospital just before sunrise. Toei was rushed in. Tong, Du, and Fi slumped into chairs, drained, shaken, silent. A few hours later, Toei, now stable, leg in a cast, finally spoke. His voice was hoarse, his eyes haunted. I wasn't dreaming, he said. Everyone leaned in. I was dancing with her. In this small, dark room. She held my hands, smiled, said, "You dance so well. Come stay with me." Toei paused. His voice cracked. I wanted to run, but when I opened the door to escape, she was already there. Same woman, same red outfit, same flower in her hair. But this time, there was a rope around her neck. She looked at me and offered me the other end of the rope. Nobody spoke. No one needed to. They all knew who he was talking about. Later that day, Tong returned to the resort one last time, just to drop off the keys. He didn't want to, but part of him needed closure. There was no one at the reception, just the same empty booth, the same silence. He placed the keys on the counter. Then, as he leaned in to look for a pen, he saw something behind the glass. A photo, framed, faded, covered in dust. It was her, the woman, the same smile, the same eyes, the same haunting beauty. Tong's blood ran cold. He looked down at the bottom of the photo. A small plaque. Born 1996. Died 2019. That's when he knew. She wasn't just a ghost. She was the owner's daughter, and she never left. Tong didn't want to return to the resort alone, so he called in a favor. A friend of Fi's, named Oat, offered to tag along. Oat worked as a local rescue volunteer, the kind of guy who'd seen a lot. Floods, accidents, even the otherworldly stuff people don't talk about in daylight. As they drove, Tong explained what had happened. Not everything, just enough. But the moment they pulled onto that hidden dirt road, and the broken rooms for rent sign came into view, Oat slammed on the brakes. "Wait, this is it." Tong nodded. Oat stared at the path ahead. His face changed. "This place is cursed, man," he said softly. "That's the haunted resort." Tong felt the weight of those words. Oat went quiet for a moment. Then, almost reluctantly, he continued. "I've responded to at least 5 cases here, maybe more. Drownings, people going missing, screaming about ghosts. One guy, he stabbed himself in the woods, said something was inside him." Tong's hands clenched. He didn't want to believe it. But now, everything made too much sense. Then Oates said something Tong would never forget. but there's one case I'll never get out of my head. The owner's daughter. She was only 23. They found her in one of the guest rooms, wearing full traditional dance clothes. She'd hung herself, and in her hair was a red flower. Tong didn't say a word. He didn't have to. He was remembering the exact same woman. The one who danced on Du's body. The one who offered Toei a rope. The one who smiled from the photograph. The one who never left. Tong never got his money back, but that's not what stayed with him. It was the voice whispering beside his ear. The smile stretching too wide. The music weaving through the night air like a lullaby from the underworld. And worst of all, the guilt that in one moment of terror, he offered his friend to her. The statue, the Yintra charms, the empty rooms, the silence that felt too intentional. Maybe they're still there, waiting, watching. And if you ever find yourself booking a last-minute resort tucked deep in the woods, look for the red flower. Listen for the music. If you hear it, don't dance.